You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks Podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
Thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of the Roughnecks Podcast. I am your host, Cole Nixon. I try to bring on and interview successful people in the world of business, entrepreneurship, athletics, and coaching every week to share their stories and the lessons that they have learned. If you haven't already, be sure to head over to Instagram and follow us at Roughnecks Podcast and Twitter at Roughnecks Pod C1. We are also on Facebook at Roughnecks Podcast. Be sure to grab the bull by the horns, but let's get into this week's episode. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Roughnecks Podcast. This is episode 33. We are on to the month of May. I asked all of you listeners on social media what you thought I should do about the first episode of every month. From January to April, I was doing solo episodes and introducing the topic that we had. You guys said I should start doing some bonus episodes with some special guests, and I couldn't agree more. We will dive into our topic next week, but I have a very special guest with me this week. Super happy to welcome to the show the Director of Marketing for Yee Apparel. Welcome, Hayden, to the Roughnecks Podcast.
What's up, man? Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on and share whatever knowledge that I've looked into over the past however many years that I've been doing this with your listeners.
For my listeners who unfortunately don't know who you are, give them a little background about who you are to kick off this episode.
Yeah, man. My name is Hayden, and I live in Austin, Texas area. We are right north of Austin and Georgetown, and I'm the Director of Marketing for Yee Apparel. Yee Apparel is a patriotic, outdoor, faith-based brand created by Granger Smith, aka Earl Dibbles Jr., country music singer. So kind of started as a funny saying that was in a YouTube video that went viral, and that was almost 10 years ago. I guess we just hit 10 years recently of that first video going viral. So now here we are. We've got a full warehouse with a full-time staff now of full-time, probably 6 to 7, anywhere from 3 to sometimes 20 shippers at any point. So it's a lot of apparel. It's a little bit of different stuff. We do apparel, but we also are like a lifestyle brand. So we're trying to sell people on something much more than just a t-shirt and what we're building here. It's a little bit of hunting. It's a little bit of fishing. It's a little bit of cracking beers with buddies after a hard week at work. And it kind of encompasses all of that. So my past is from the music industry before this, and that's kind of what brought me here. This job's a little bit different because I'm working for a music artist, but it tends to be a little bit more e-commerce and obviously marketing, since that's what I do. But I still get to do a little bit of Granger's marketing mainly for touring. And then he recently released an album, so I got to do a lot of cool stuff on that album release that I've never gotten to do before. So I'm kind of getting like the best of both worlds over here. So I couldn't be more happy, and Yee Apparel is really blowing up. So it's been cool to see the growth over the last couple of years and be a part of something that's growing exponentially, but that is still so early on. We feel like we've barely scratched the surface, and maybe not even scratched the surface of what we're going to accomplish. So it's cool to be a part of that at the foundation, and be able to make decisions and be in the room whenever we're talking about some of these deals that we're working on or anything like that. I came from small companies where maybe the how do I say this? The employee input wasn't always valued as much. So it's super cool to be here and just have all the opportunity to voice your opinion. And we do that often, but it's cool. So a long-winded way to say that, that's kind of who I am and what I do over here at Yee Apparel.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because you talked about how it's grown, and as like a fan and somebody who buys Yee Apparel and knows, kind of follows it with the Smiths and everything that you guys, the Yee podcast, Granger Smith podcast, I've watched it grow over my time following it. And it's crazy how much it seems like, especially in the past, I'd say year or two is when it's really started to take off. And it's really cool to watch as a fan, from the fan side of it. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, man, life's all about looking at the the good with the bad. And whenever COVID hit, there are a lot of artists that sat around and said, well, dang. And I understand that a lot of artists don't have all the things that we have going on, but a lot of artists sat around and felt sorry for themselves. And I know just watching Granger firsthand, he was back to the drawing board and it was like, what content can we create? Like, these are the cards that life has dealt us. What can we do? And then that trickles down to like what we're building here. And then also Yee Apparel itself has just been lucky to be in the right spot at the right time a little bit with e-commerce has blown up since COVID happened, and people just for a long time, whenever everything was shut down, were having to buy online. So we reap the benefits of that, of course, but we weren't, it was a little bit of luck, but it was also a lot of hard work. And then just being prepared for that opportunity whenever, the pandemic hit.
The first thing I want to ask you about is the quail, because I've seen people raise a lot of different kinds of animals, and I cannot say I've ever seen someone raise quail. And like, it's not, trust me, it's better than some of the things that I've watched some of my friends try and raise, because between like raccoons and baby deer, and I got a lot of people that try and raise some weird stuff. But where did that idea come from? Like, what made you want to start doing that?
Yeah, so so my dad and I started doing quail together, kind of like, so we bought a bunch of eggs, fertilized eggs, actually from Ohio area, and they were mailed down here. Dude, it's insane. Like, they mailed a bunch of eggs in a box, and I was like, what do we do with this shit? Like, do I just put it in the incubator? Like, is there a waiting period? And it was just crazy to me that they're mailing eggs, and it was in a little cushiony thing. But so how it started is I have a friend that does this, and he makes good money off of it. And he is like city turned country. He met a girl in the last like couple years, and this dude, like, he's lived in middle of the city for a while, and he's like in his lower 30s, and he just met this girl, and like something flipped, and now he lives out an hour outside of the town or the city that he used to be in, and he's like raising everything under the sun. So he was the one that put me onto quail. So I told my dad about it. I'm like, this is something that may interest me. Dude, I shit you not, like a week later, he says, I ordered us 180 eggs. I'm like, okay, I said it interests me. I didn't say I wanted to do it. And so it was kind of baptism by fire. Like all of a sudden we had eggs. And so I ordered the stuff for it, and I read a lot. And there is a YouTuber that was actually out at EE Day with us. His name, their YouTube channel is Dutch Family Farms, I think is what it is. And I unknowingly watched so many of his videos, like all the time, just learning more, because he's big on quail. And then it was cool because Granger got hooked up with him, so I ended up getting to meet him. And yeah, I just watched a lot of YouTube videos, and it's definitely something different. I've got about like 60. I actually sold some quail this past weekend, but I've got about 60 birds, and it's really fun to learn how to do something. I didn't really grow up in like FFA, I had dogs all growing up, and I think it's important for a kid to like learn how to nurture an animal and raise them. But I didn't really learn like with livestock or anything like that. So it's kind of my chance to do that. And it's been really exciting and really fulfilling. I want to get to a point where I really don't want to buy meat from the supermarket or the grocery store. Like, it's definitely a long-term type thing, but I want to get to the point one time where I'm like fully sustainable. So I've been eating quail, and it's the meat is great. Like, it's awesome. And it's super fulfilling to like, it kind of sucks to like raise something and then have to kill it a few months later, but they're getting like the best life and that during that time. And it's a lot better than what Tyson is doing to their chicken or whatever. So a lot of people think I'm raising them for hunting. Raising them for hunting, and I'm not. They're Coternics, so they don't really fly that well. I think bob whites are typically used for hunting more. But yeah, man, it's been awesome. And I just had a couple chicks born 3 days ago, so they're like at the really, really cute phase. It sucks because they have to have heat on them at like all times, and if they put their head down wrong, they'll like freeze to death. So it's kind of frustrating, but it's fun to like learn like what I did wrong on this batch or what I did right, and then try to improve. I kind of love the home. I'm not as much as like Granger homesteading, but I really do love the idea of that, and I want to get to a point one day where I'm doing more of it. So Coternics quail has been a good start for me.
they have some really cool eggs too. Like I've seen some of the pictures and stuff that you've posted of them, and they're super cool looking, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, and a fun fact is that a quail will lay the same pattern for its entire life. So a female quail, and I've seen, like, they look a little bit different, but if there's a big blob that's shaped a certain way on this egg, it's going to be somewhat similar on the next. So that's been kind of cool. Like I don't always know which female is laying them, but I know that one of the females in here laid 3 eggs over 3 days, or whatever. So that's been kind of cool too. That's a little fun fact that I did not know a few months ago.
So you guys recently did Yee Day out at the farm, and where there was a lot of awesome people. I think you made a lot of people from the outside looking in very jealous, because that looked like an awesome event. Tell us kind of exactly I know you've done this on your podcast and you guys have talked probably a ton about it, but tell us exactly what Yee Day was for, and like why you guys do it.
Yeah, so we had the idea, I guess it was last year. It was kind of by luck. I remember talking to Tyler, and Tyler's the middle brother of the Smiths, and he's Granger's manager. And he was like, look up when he was incorporated, like whenever we got incorporated. And it was like perfect timing, because it ended up being about a month away from the date. It was like mid-March, and Yee Day is, I think, the 17th. It differs. We always do the launch on a Friday. But we looked it up and we were like, oh man, we should do like a little mini launch. And it was actually our first time to do a launch which is kind of our whole business, is these hyped up launches. And so last year we did it with just apparel, and it crushed. We sold so much. People love our brand, and so they really feel like it's cool to celebrate, and they feel buy-in with that. So then this year we wanted the next level, and we've done something similar to this out at the Yee farm with Granger's Holler music video. And so it's kind of a party that we just film and get great shots of. And so that was kind of the idea with this. And we did do a music video for Yee Day this year. It was not in the plans at all. And then like 3 days out, we said, hey, why don't we just do this? And Granger's got Paul is his videographer, and Paul is a little bit of everything. He can do it all. So Paul was like, I'm down, like, let's do a music video. So we ended up shooting a music video for it, which was really cool. And we didn't tell anyone that. So it was a cool surprise whenever they got there. But man, it was awesome. It was like a day of just imagine like all the countryest things that you can do. And that's what it was. It was mudding, it was shooting, it was fishing. It's funny because the fishing, we actually had to like have a tank come in, and this guy this guy that stocks tanks just dropped off some catfish, and because our tanks right now are dry, so which we're working on. But it was really funny that we were doing that, and he was like, man, I've never done this for adults. Like usually this is at carnivals for kids. He's like, this is the first adults I've ever done. But like Hannah Barron, who is just the most legendary, like just fisherman at all, like noodler of all time, she jumped in there and was catching some stuff. And so we invited influencers and different friends, and then we did a few like radio giveaways that we worked with some different radio stations. And so we did have some people out. We did a fan of the year contest like 2 years ago, and then COVID hit. We weren't able to have them out. So her name's Sarah, and she's been like one of our day one fans. And so she came out, her and her husband, and they had just a blast, and it was cool. So the goal with that was like our foundation for Yee Day. And I think that we've all kind of decided that we want to continue doing it. And eventually, probably next year, there will be some type of fan component, and we don't know what that is yet. Like, how can we get people out here to experience this? Because it's a really fine line, because this is our place of business, and like we fulfill every order right here. So we're still doing stuff, but then also like there's like this magic to the farm, and we're aware of that. And so we want to share that in some way that we can, keep it somewhere in the middle and not deal with, people trying to show up and get in and all kinds of stuff. So there'll be something next year. We're just not sure. It's kind of one of those events that it's so large and it's going to get so big that you get done with it, and it seems like in 2 months you're kind of back to the drawing board and thinking of different ideas. We had a great call afterwards of different things that we can do for next year while everything was still fresh on our mind. And so some of the notes were awesome. Like next year is going to be dope. I can't wait for it.
That's what I was going to ask. I was going to ask how much planning goes into, because I mean, that's a ton of different stuff that's going on. So like when you've already started planning for next year. So like how much planning does go on for this type of event?
Man, it's all the stuff that you don't think of. We are very lucky. So I have an event background and I worked in an event company. That's how I came up. It was in music, but that is my background. But I didn't even really do much for Yee Day. We used Chris Lee, who is Granger's tour manager, who is just the best at that. He's been with Granger forever. So he was awesome. Like he's one of those guys that you just give it to him and you give him a task and you can just kind of know that it's going to get done for the most part. And so he was great to have on. So yeah, a lot of planning goes in and there's a lot of stuff that always like shit comes up. It always happens, but we're kind of made for that because like that's what they do out on the road all the time, every day. And like shows, there's something new every show that comes up. And so not everything's perfect. It may look like it to the person attending the concert, but they don't know like the shitstorm that's going on backstage. So we're kind of built for that. And the more that we do, the more issues that we'll have. And yeah, like we're already starting to have ideas. Next year, I think we're going to transition like to just an entire paintball course. Like you can hire people to come in and drop all kinds of stuff. And it's like, man, instead of doing the range where it's like, it can be dangerous. And then also it's like one person shooting at a time. Let's just do a paintball course that's massive and everyone can play, and the content from that will be hilarious. Like, can you imagine Granger just nailing Dale Brisby, in the back of the head with a paintball gun? Like that'd be so funny. So I think it'll evolve every year, but that's kind of where we're looking towards next year.
It definitely looks like with what you guys already have going on, it looks like it's a blast. You got a paintball course and then you got a bunch of grown-ups acting like kids and it's going to be even better. But without a doubt.
And these creators, no, I was just gonna say these creators, like you worry about, man, are they gonna be bored or whatever? But like they're content creators. Like you will look over and there's like 4 or 5 guys doing a TikTok that you're like, oh, they didn't come together. Like they just met. And it's cool. That's what we want to do with this is we want to celebrate Yee Day, but we also want to invite all these people in our realm and be like the vehicle for them to meet each other. It's like, hey, y'all meet here. Like let us provide that for you and make those lasting relationships, because it's all about long-term growth for us and connecting with people over the long term.
Well, too, from like a business standpoint, that's just like they're going to make videos, especially they're content creators. They're going to make those videos while they're at the farm. And that's just almost free marketing for you. Like they're going to be talking about it. Like what was it? The Hannah, didn't she make a whole video about the day and posted on her YouTube channel. So like, it's just marketing for you, more marketing for you guys.
Yeah. And a lot of people like look at that as, man, they're in the same realm. Like they could be taking my customers, like whatever. I mean, we've dealt with it before. Like we've tried to collaborate with different people, or we've tried to like even meet up with someone or whatever. And it seems like a lot of people are standoffish, and like Parker and I both agree. And we always have that, like, what is it? You catch more flies with honey type, that saying. It's so true. Like just be a good person. And like there was someone at Yee Day that was asking me personally, all kinds of questions about e-commerce, and what they were blissfully ignorant. And I love that. But what they didn't know is like, if they would have asked a lot of people this in a brand that has built up on e-commerce and is doing like the orders that we're doing, a lot of people would say, man, I'm not going to tell you, like, I'm not helping you out. Because I had people tell me that, like early on. I still have people tell me that are bigger than Yee. And like, you remember that shit, dude. Like you remember exactly what they said. You remember who told you couldn't. You remember who didn't respond to your emails. You remember who unfollowed you. Like it's so petty, but you remember that. And it's one of those things. Like I don't base anything off of it, but it's always in the back of my head. And like, I keep receipts. Like I keep receipts on all that. Like one day we're going to be at the top, and like, I'm going to be remembering all of that. And I just think it's so important to get to the top of the water tower and throw a ladder down, throw a ladder down to everyone that's helped you out. Or, I mean, there's some of these kids, I mean, they're 18, 19, whatever. But I mean, they are like, it's so easy to brush off someone that's on TikTok, but dude, they're like doing meetups with thousands of people showing up. Like they're selling more meetup tickets than a lot of people sell concerts. And it's like, dude, that's insane. Like they're creating something. And so like those are people that I want to be a part of our brand. Like, how can we help you? How can you help me? But where can I provide value for you? Because I always want to be providing value, whether it's through e-commerce, whether it's through mentorship, like whatever. And I think a lot of people get lost in that, but it's super important.
It's funny you said something about people brushing off TikTokers, because we just had I'm taking an international business class right now, and we just had a lawyer come and speak to our class. And somebody, I think our professor asked a question like, would you have any advice to anybody who's like trying to become a lawyer? And she goes, I don't know. I'd probably tell you to go become a TikToker instead, because like you can almost make more money sometimes doing stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So I definitely have to talk about the next thing. And it's a recent announcement you guys made. Yee will now be on the number 19 car of Brandon Jones, who is an Xfinity Series racer, correct?
Correct.
I mean, this is just insane. Like, I just listened to your guys' latest episode of the podcast, and I like what Parker said too about people complaining that it's on a Toyota car. I think like you put EE on it, and that it makes it country. It has to. And it's kind of cool too to see, like you said, you guys are a smaller company with like 6, 7 full-time employees, and you guys are on a freaking race car. Like that's not something that's easy to be done. How long was this process to get that all set up?
Yeah, we're super excited to be partnering with Brandon on this car, and I'm a sports fan, and so like I've always wanted to integrate like eventually into sports, whatever that was. And I didn't think it'd be NASCAR, because I did not know a ton about NASCAR a few months ago. But I tell you, like, I have gone all in on this sport, and it's so much fun to watch. We've been getting all in, and I've been reading on rules, and like every race I'm watching something and looking it up, like, okay, wait, what did that mean? And so I'm pretty good now. Like I know quite a bit after, 5 or 6 races this year. Yeah, man, we're super excited. It went down kind of funny. So let me say that we've had opportunities for NASCAR before, and it was always one of two things. It was someone that we necessarily didn't think fit our brand, or that straight up like did not have a chance to be on victory road, like, to be completely honest. Or it was like a right back panel. And it's like, man, I said from day one, like, I want someone that we totally think is going to win this damn race, and I want the whole damn car. Like we got to it's got to be the Yee car. I don't want a back right panel. And like, yeah, maybe that'd be great on like, a Denny Hamlin car or someone massive. But like, if we're going to be going Xfinity first, and like we're going to be growing with a driver, like as they progress in their career, we want to be there. Like, I want it to be the car. And so Brandon reached out to us on Instagram, and we get those every once in a while. And so Brandon reached out, and he just said he'd be interested in us doing something with the car, or like whatever. So, and you know what? He could have reached out to 50 companies that he loved. I don't know, but it fit. Like, I remember looking him up in our system, and I was like, he's ordered 4 times from us. So this isn't just some blind thing. Like, he's ordered from us 4 times and never asked for a discount, like never asked for free stuff, which athletes and famous people do all the time in our
and
DMs.
non-famous people.
And non-famous people. But yeah, so it was a great fit. And so we immediately got connected, his manager / agent, however that works. And he immediately like understood the value that we can bring, because yeah, you can go after Lowe's or, whatever massive company that's been in NASCAR forever and get all the money in the world. And that's not us. Like, what we're able to give you is social presence. And we're going to like, we may not have all the money that these mega corporations, these Fortune 500 companies have, but we're going to blast this to all of our followers. And we have such a dedicated following that is like cultish, that whenever you're driving the Yee car, like you're going to have an entire army rooting for you. And so the amount of times I've seen people say one of two things. They say, I don't even watch NASCAR, but now I do. Or I just found my new favorite NASCAR driver. Like maybe I know someone that is a diehard Kevin Harvick fan, and Kevin Harvick's getting towards the end of his career. And so she was like, man, I was looking for someone to support, so I guess it's got to be Brandon. Like, that's really cool that we can provide that for him, because like he came here in the podcast, and then we went out to eat after, and like we shut down the restaurant and just hung out, and him and his girlfriend are just like salt of the earth people, great people. Like, he's just a good guy. He embodies everything that our company stands for. So it couldn't be like more of a perfect fit. It's perfect.
It's funny because I can't tell you the last time I watched any type of NASCAR race, but like when I was listening to like when the announcement was made, I was like, well, maybe I'll watch a couple races. Like, and it's like you said, you have that such a dedicated following. You guys have built such a following that is, like you said, cultish. And I've literally used that with my friends. Like when some people that don't know what EE is will ask me, and I'm like, and they're like, why are you so invested? I'm like, once you get into EE and like truly get into it, like you don't stop. It becomes like your cult. And dude, the race car, that's freaking awesome. Like it's really cool to see, because just from a small company standpoint, it's like smaller and growing. It's cool to see like a massive step like this. But I mean, this was one of your goals you said that you had originally. Do you have any other goals of yours that you can disclose, I should say?
That's a good question. So this is my only goal that has been crossed off so far personally. And let me also say that whenever I was hired, coming up on 3 years ago, our company was very, very different than what it looks like now. And in 3 years, it'll probably be immensely different. So a lot of the goals that I can't talk about are more like numbers and orders and certain stuff like that. We just some companies share that. We decide, not to for the most part. But the other one is something that I'm really passionate about is food and like culture and learning different people's culture and how they interact with food and different things like that. Anytime I travel, I'm always trying to try the like all the stuff that they have there, whatever is popular. Sometimes, usually at the most rundown looking shop in that city, town, country, whatever. So that's usually what I'm going after. So something that like I would really like to do, and I don't even know if it's me myself, maybe someone else that is more of a personality, but I love to have like a catch or a kill. What is it? Kill, clean, catch, or catch, clean, kill, whatever type of YouTube show, like similar to, like a Meat Eater, what they've done. Of course, they've blown up, but I think it'd be really cool to do that, but really focus on the recipes. And I've been like lucky enough to have so many good different wild game cooked so well in my experience and growing up. And so I think it'd be really cool to start some type of video series like that. So maybe like 8 episodes, and it's about 30 minutes long, and it's going out on this hunt, and you harvest an animal, and then the main focus of it would be cooking it. And because that's really important. I mean, hunters, as you know, like hunting is so big, but then like I know so many hunters that they care way more about how they cook the animal and the different recipe and learning more. And so like that's kind of me. Like I love hunting, and I like fishing. That's mainly my thing more than hunting, but I geek out more over that. I didn't grow up in a family like that. Like we didn't really, I mean, I've always heard you eat to live or you live to eat. And now later in my life, I live to eat, but I kind of just used to eat to live. And so like, if we ever killed dove, it was like, just throw the dove in some bacon poppers and that's good. And that's amazing. Do not get me wrong. But now, like last season, I started cooking dove different ways and looking up different recipes, and I've learned a lot more. And so it's fun to just like try and experiment with different stuff. So I'd love to have like a YouTube series of that one day as Yee grows our content and our content focus.
See, you talked a little bit about the hunter, like people that almost knock hunting and don't agree with hunting. Sometimes they're like, oh, how can you shoot a deer? How can you do that? And I'm like, I don't think you understand. I think we appreciate the animals more than you do. Like there's an appreciation as a hunter with the animals. And like you said, like with how you cook it, like you're honoring that animal in a way. So that's why sometimes when people get on me about hunting, I'm like, that's without trying to be controversial here, anybody who's listening that might have controversy with it, but it's still like, there is an appreciation behind that animal when we kill it.
Yeah, I've always noticed that. It sucks because there's people out there that give hunters a bad rep for sure, and typically those aren't the people those are the people that make headlines. You're like, doesn't that suck how that works? But yeah, man, I mean, like also not to mention the fact that we need more depending on where you're at in the country. Most places in the country, like whitetail, for example, we need more people hunting whitetail because we have a population issue. And if no one's hunting whitetail, like if hunting whitetail was made illegal right now, and for the next 5 years we didn't hunt whitetail, like we'd have a huge overpopulation issue. And I've watched a lot of stuff on this. Like one part of the food chain getting screwed up just goes down to the next one and the next one and the next one. And then it's a shit show. So you have to have hunting. And I think that in Texas, I don't know about up there, but like in Texas, the thing that's tough sometimes about hunting is we don't have a lot of public land. So like whenever I went on a fishing trip and I was hanging out with all my buddies and I didn't get a deer this year. And we were really busy and I had excuses, but I didn't really even get a chance to go out. And all my buddies were like, oh yeah, I got 3 deer this year. And they were talking about that and they're like, oh yeah, it's a lot more public land up here. And they were in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Whereas down here, man, it's like, everything's private, which kind of just sucks about Texas. And there's not all of it's private, but a vast majority. And the stuff that's not private is like the Rio Grande and on the border of Mexico, where there's not a ton of whitetail. Like there's some, but also like terrible hunting experience because you're hiking all the time. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's what kind of sucks here. A lot of people that want to hunt can't necessarily, at least in Texas with all the private land.
Speaking on that population thing, it's funny that you say that because there's a little city, it's sort of a city right near me. It's Granville, and you never used to be able to hunt inside city limits, but then it became so overpopulated that they started allowing archery season into city limits because like it was so bad that they didn't have a choice. Like they had deer walking on the street and stuff. Like it's like down in the middle of the town. It's like they had to do something, so they started allowing people. I think at one point it was so bad they were paying people to come in and hunt.
Wow, within city limits. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't doing gun, obviously, but they allowed any like bows and so it was. But it's just crazy to see like what happens if you don't hunt and you don't have that. Like people are like, oh yeah, it's good. Not necessarily. Like you said, it trickles down through everything.
Right, exactly.
But you're a little bit of a podcaster yourself, with being one of the voices that you regularly hear on the Yee podcast. Where did that idea come from to start? Because you guys just recently started it this year, I believe. And especially since like you guys already had there's the Granger Smith podcast. So why did you guys start the Yee podcast?
Yeah, great question. I think that a lot of brands like do not focus on content enough. And a lot of our outlook for the future is like if you go to our Instagram right now, we've got a ton of followers and a ton of content that we're pushing out all the time. However, a lot of it is like meme format and it's finding funny videos and stuff like that. And so the overall goal has always been to like start introducing more content that is based here and happening here. And you can only do so much with a couple employees, but we're growing. And when we've hired 3 full-time employees in the last 6 months, and the next 6 months on the other side of that, there will probably be some more. So that's always been kind of the focus. And I think that people buy from people, not from brands. And so they want to know that there's a person on the other end. Like Parker's TikTok has been, I don't know if like Parker, who is the CEO of Yee Apparel, like his TikTok is blown up, and I run all the email marketing, and I cannot tell you the amount of times that one of these automated emails will go out to someone after they purchase and they say something, they respond, because we always encourage people to respond. We read everything, and they'll say something along the lines of, I found you guys from Parker's, TikTok. And so just trying to humanize the brand, I think, and he's done a good job of that. And I'm always trying to do a great job of it as well. Like the reality is that like Granger will not sing forever. He'll probably play shows for a very, very long time, but the focus has always been, it's like, hey, let's grow like this brand that we're doing here. And like we always want Granger to be at the forefront of that. But we also want to bring up other people as well. Like everyone should have their own personal brand. So that's kind of where that started. And I think that just like it's our podcast was started to literally just have fun. Like, yeah, I know that everyone started a podcast during the pandemic, but it was kind of that thing. It's like, let's just do this to have fun and just hang out, and we'll have guests on every once in a while. If we don't get a guest, like who cares? Like, let's just do whatever and not take ourselves too seriously. And also just giving people like an in-depth look. It's funny. We had an episode the other day where we were like, oh man, people are going to see our true sides to this. And like, they're going to make fun of us for our answers or something, but that's like truly who we are. And it's fun. We just got done doing an episode, and it's great. I've learned so much. For me personally, I've learned so much from podcasts. And it's really how I learn personally. And I'm probably listening to 8 to 10 hours a week of podcasts. And so it's cool to be able to provide that for some other people and say something that you didn't even think much of, but then you see a comment from someone and they're like, man, that really hit me. Like, that was awesome that you said that. I've never thought about it that way. It's cool to provide that. Because we don't really know what we're doing here. We're just still building a brand and just learning every day. But it's cool to just provide that for people, and then just another way to connect, I think. So we're really early on the podcast, and it was funny because I got a comment this morning that said, Hayden's so good at conversation, he makes it flow. And then my friend said something, who's a podcaster and has been podcasting for a while, said something like, you're not a real podcaster until someone says that your voice is annoying, because she always gets that. And I was like, that's true. That's true. As soon as someone says that my voice is annoying, that's whenever I'll know I'm a real podcaster. So not a real podcaster yet, but as soon as someone says that, I'll be a pro.
Well, like, the thing is, like, as a podcast, no one ever knows what they're doing when they first start a podcast. And like, some people who even have 100 episodes still don't even know what they're doing. Like, I heard something too, like, I think it was Andy Frisilla. He was like, I won't even get on an episode until they have like at least 100 episodes, because everybody has podcast burnout. Like, I've gone through it where I just like, man,
So
I don't want to
true.
do an episode this week. But then you realize the consistency is the big thing. But it's cool that you guys have that podcast, because you guys have also the good mixture of like fun and like learning all in one. And like you said, people buy from people, not a brand, and they get to know you. They get to know the insides of the business and like who they're buying from. And it makes you as a customer, it makes you connect to them more.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the podcasts you've ever listened to. Like, you probably didn't start day one. You were probably somewhere, probably around 100 or after. And podcasts are tough, and that's why podcast burnout happens, is because it's like the best to do is once a week or more, if you're getting enough listeners. And it's tough to like do that. Like, we actually stopped for a little while because our videographer hadn't moved down here yet, and it was tough to do stuff without him. And so now we're a couple episodes and we're working ahead. We're working like 2-3 weeks in advance, which I think is key, like being able to do that. But yeah, man, it's tough. And the thing about podcasts too is it's similar to YouTube, whereas like it's tough. It's a long time until you make money off of it. Like, and if you start a podcast to make money, like, you're already doomed. It's a great thing eventually, and to push for is to get, monetized and be making some money on ads or whatever. But like, man, if that's what you're starting, you're in for a long, tough road, because we're not making obviously any money on ours, and it's crazy how long it takes to get views. Like, it's crazy. And that's why it goes back to like creating a relationship with your listeners. Like, if you're getting 100 listens, every listen matters. If you're getting even 10,000 listens, every listen matters. Like, all those are so important. Not until you're getting like really, really up there is it like, okay, well, this episode only got 100,000 plays or whatever. Like, every listen is important to us. So it's important to also just like have it, not like, it's a fun thing. It's supplemental, but it's we need to do it every week, but it's not one of those things that we need to like lose sleep over. It's just fun. It's a way for us to connect. The questions are great for that. It's like, you get to experience questions. So yeah, I love it. It's always something I've wanted to do, but we'll see how it goes, and we'll see. I mean, we're on 100 episodes. Is what Andy said.
I think so.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Golly, that's a lot of freaking episodes. Yeah, we're on 7, or we just did 8.
This is only my 33rd.
That's
so
insane.
I'm not.
How many have you done?
This is my 33rd.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you always been doing once a week?
Yeah, since I started, yes.
Like, are you 33 weeks in?
Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is too, this is not my first episode. I've talked about this a few episodes before, but like, not my first podcast. This is my second attempt at a podcast. And that's what a lot of times too, if people they experience that podcast burnout and they're like, oh, I'll start another one. But like, usually too, like, that first podcast, it won't always work. Like, because you're gonna have you're not gonna get the listeners, and I think people almost give up too early sometimes too. But like, I had a podcast and I was getting like 13 views every episode, and I was like, all right, like, it was just bad. It was all bad. But then I like learned a lot from that podcast of what not to do and what works and what doesn't work.
Think about it too. You have to be, I don't know about you, but for me, I have to be really bought in to a brand or a creator or whoever to listen to their podcast. Like I'll watch anybody's like Instagram video. I'll follow anybody, but like to literally just sit down for an hour of your drive or an hour of whatever and watch a YouTube series or yeah, I mean, or a podcast. That's why it's always been really impressive. Like we've got a lot of friends that in the YouTube world that are getting stupid amounts of views. And it's like, it'll just be something outlandish like that they're doing in the video. It's like, how many blah, blah, blah can I shoot with this gun? Which is always, it's cool. But what's always been impressive to me is that like Granger can literally do a family vlog, release 2 episodes a week. And sometimes like the episodes are just like, we went to the petting zoo or we did this, and people care, man. Like they care, and they care more than anything. And that like, their influencer gets thrown around all the time and it's loosely used. But like, if you can get people to care about a vlog, that's the ultimate. And YouTube is, I mean, I've always said I'll take 50,000 YouTube subscribers over 1 million on Instagram all day.
Mhm.
Give me 50,000 on YouTube, more than 1 million on Instagram. Like, cause those are dedicated followers. They're so much more important. They buy from you, they listen to you, they follow you. Anyone can follow on Instagram. I see people all the time get 1 million Instagram followers. And I'm like, that doesn't mean anything because they're not, how engaged are they? But if you're able to do a vlog and get people engaged with you, that's impressive.
Yeah, and I look at somebody too like Whistling Diesel. That man just literally just wrecks things and just has a bunch of sweet trucks and whatnot. And he has another huge following, gets massive amounts of views and subscribers on YouTube. It's crazy but like that type of stuff, it takes a while to build up to that point.
Yeah, and what I always think about with that, and not, I mean, they were, I wasn't there for that video shoot, but they were great, and everybody from our team still talks about them. But what I always think about is what next? Like, it's always got to be something next, something bigger, something badder, something more dangerous. And it's like, man, we're just over here, like, I can't speak for Granger, but he's just over here doing his family vlog and finding so much fulfillment in it. And we're over here doing our podcast and finding so much fulfillment in it. And we're not doing anything that's crazy dangerous or like shooting something wild or like blowing up a truck or whatever. Like, so I don't know. I mean, it works. And like, I mean, someone like that has stupid following, and his YouTube subscribers, like Whistling Diesels, they definitely translate to purchasers. But it's just, I always think about that. It's like, there's always got to be something bigger, something badder. And someone like Whistling Diesel, he's always going to find the bigger, badder, crazier thing. Don't get me wrong. He will. But it's like that build is going to take, he's going to one day get to a point where a build for it's got to be so crazy that for a truck is going to take, over a year, and that's working on it every day. So it's nice to sometimes just be able to do the simple feel good stuff. And people find a lot of value in that too.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about social media, because you guys have, like, if that social media has grown, you guys are pushing a lot of content. I mean, even your dog Cooper has more followers than my podcast on Instagram. But I want to ask, like, where the hell some of the ideas for these memes or these videos come from? Like, do people send this stuff to you, and like, or is it stuff that you guys find, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, good question. I think that there's some brands like Barstool that do something similar to what we do with like content and scraping the internet. And I think that a brand like that does look around a lot, but I also think that they have a lot of people send them stuff in. Man, we rarely get like submissions that are worthy of posting. And that's not like a knock on the submissions that we get. We don't really put it out there. Like, we don't have a link on our website to submit anything. It's kind of crazy because it's like, that's what you do first whenever you start at e-apparel. So Parker did all content for the longest time. And then whenever I came in 2.5, almost 3 years ago, that's what I did. And so then we recently just hired, his name's Ben, and he's from Boston, and he interned for us for a little bit. And then he came on, and he just moved down here like a month ago. And so that's what he's doing. And he's been great at it. And it really, like, it sounds so dumb, but it takes like a special skill to learn about our brand and learn about our followers and know them so well, and be able to look at a funny video and be like, I don't think it's going to do very well, or I don't think our followers are going to find that funny, because I'm not exactly like all of our followers, but I'm able to see, like, I don't think they're going to like that one. I think they are. And I'm still wrong all the time. Don't get me wrong. But it takes a little while to learn that. So yeah, a lot of our stuff, like, I don't know, man. Everyone tries to like recreate everything and make it big and bad, but you can't recreate the wheel. It's already made. And so we look at like what a lot of other companies are doing, and we sometimes recreate it and put our spin on it, which is what everybody's done since day one. We do the same thing with content. Like I had a brand the other day reach out, and they're like, "You stole my meme." And I was like, "Well, you stole that meme from someone else, because I looked at the timestamps and I know that y'all posted it after them." So it's so funny how that works. Like we do make a lot of content ourselves, of course, but then I mean, stuff circulates. I listen to there's do you know who Fat Jewish is? He has the Instagram account that's massive.
I don't know if I've heard of him.
He was one of the first like OG memers, and he created like a wine brand off of his Instagram like meme account and all this different stuff. He's really, really cool. I've listened to a lot of his interviews, and he talked about one day, like, he was like, "Of course I steal shit. Like, everyone steals shit." He said, "I don't, a lot of times I put my own spin on stuff, but like, yeah, I do it all the time." So we try not to do that. And it's funny too, because the process a lot of times looks like find a funny meme format that's going around and is really popular. And then, okay, what are the things that work with our brand? Like dip, cracking cold ones, country music, trucks, those types of things, hunting, fishing. And so it's like, how can we incorporate one of those? And so there's the classic, like when you crack too many cold ones or whenever you do this or whatever. But like Ben's getting really good at like learning different ones. And it took me a while. And, Parker's like the OG. He's been doing it forever. So he doesn't do much content anymore, but he'll still like rattle off a really good caption and a really good meme every once in a while. But yeah, man, it's a process. Like it really is. I mean, it's crazy. Like I wouldn't say I'm a professional memer by any by any stance. And I definitely wouldn't say that to my parents, because they would feel like that is a total waste of my degree. But yeah, there's really an art to it, and like you learn more about your fan base as time goes by, and it's fun. Like, and it's a very quick way, not quick, but it's a quicker way to grow an account with lots of followers. And our memes have been like the top of our funnel. Like that's how a lot of people find out about our brand, and they see it, they're like, "Oh, that's funny," and they like a meme, and then they're in our marketing funnel and they're getting targeted with different ads and stuff like that. So like, yeah, I mean, there is a method to the madness. Like our memes literally create all-time customers. It's crazy how that works.
Well, too, like I know me personally, like I'll see it, and like if I find it funny and stuff, like people post that on their story or they'll send it to a friend, and then it's just expanding. It's the word of mouth that is just expanding your brand.
Yeah, and we look at all those analytics, man. Like you can look at all those analytics, and the main Fat Jewish, that guy that I was talking about, he said this too. He said the only analytic that I look at for content is how many friends did they send this to. If people are tagging their friends in this meme or this post and they're sending it to them, that's good. Like you should go off of one benchmark. Do people want to share it with the people that are important to them? If they want to share it, that's a good meme. That's a good piece of content. And that made me think differently ever since I heard that.
Okay, but now the DMs for Yee Apparel, because you've talked about it, you've posted some of them that where people DM you and asking for free stuff. And I love some of your responses where you're like, just give them the site, and yeah, you can go over to the site and order it and we'll ship it straight to you. Or I like you posted the one recently that said, "Are you kidding me, Blake?" when he was asking for free tires, which I don't know why. That just blows my mind. Like some of the people that what they asked for. But what would you say is the funniest DM that you've ever received, or the dumbest, or are they the same?
Wow. I have received nudes before.
Oh my God.
Multiple times. That's probably the worst. Yeah, you weren't expecting that. That's probably the worst thing I think I've ever received. We get like can I get some free merch all the time? But that one was one that I was like, huh. And it's happened since, but that very first time it was a little scary to open that up. So yeah, that's probably the craziest thing that I've ever received.
That's not at all what I was expecting.
No, it never is.
Yeah, wow. I hope to God, honestly, that I never have to experience anything like that.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, we actually made a video. We made a video that we never showed of showing different people in the warehouse and just filming their reactions. And we'll probably post it one day. There's some hilarious reactions because no one has any idea what it is. And then all of a sudden they just see the picture. So we may post that one day. I kind of forgot all about it actually until you said that. So maybe I'll post that this week.
What is
Sorry to cut you off. I just felt like
you're
I had to share
fine.
that part.
What is your personal favorite form of social media? Because you're a little bit of a TikToker yourself, and TikTok's becoming a new big thing. But what is your personal favorite form of social media?
My personal. So is the question like my personal as a marketer, like to reach people, or what I personally like myself just in my personal life?
I was gonna ask you both, so give me both answers.
Okay. Marketing, TikTok, and my personal that I like, man, this is kind of like old of me, but I love Facebook. Like people knock on Facebook. Like I still love Facebook. A lot of my friends are off of it, but I don't know. I still like it. I still like the layout. So personal, go with Facebook. And then TikTok is just making waves right now so much with marketing. And I haven't really like embraced it. I embrace it for the brand. I haven't done as much personally, but especially like as Parker has, but it's crazy. Like I've never seen, well, first of all, it's different than the other apps because it's a discovery app. Like Instagram, you're following people. You're not really you will discover some, and Facebook, whatever, but they're connection apps. They're not discovery. TikTok is through and through a discovery app. And I think that is why it's been so transformational over the past year and how it's grown. And obviously COVID, a lot of people started downloading it, but man, we've seen a lot of new customers, new fans, new followers from TikTok, both with Granger and Yee Apparel. And a lot of them convert into customers. And I hear a lot of brands say, well, they don't convert into customers. They're just followers. They do if you nurture them right and you nurture them just how you would any other marketing lead. Like, and the thing is like, that's the next generation. Like that's people bitch about it. And they're like, TikTokers are just 14 to 18-year-olds. Like, okay, who do you think's going to be buying from you over the next 20 years? Like, we're trying to make a company that's going to be around for our kids to take it over. Like, I don't want to do something that whenever I turn 40, I'm going to need a new job. And so how are you reaching that next generation? Like, and also they're going to their parents and asking for whatever for Christmas or their birthday. Like I remember wanting all kinds of different things as a kid, and my parents definitely didn't buy me everything, but they tell me, put it on your Christmas list and we'll see. And like, I wished and looked at stuff all the time. So like, I don't buy that. I think that's the easy way out. And I think that's the way out of a lot of marketers that just don't want to embrace a new social. And trust me, I know like it sucks keeping up with all of them. Sometimes you're like, oh, I got to make content for this. I got to make content for that. This works on this one. It doesn't work on that one or whatever. But like TikTok, if I was starting all over right now, like that's, and I had money and time to put into a social media for a brand, it would be TikTok.
100%. I've just started getting into it, and like it takes some getting used to, but like I have somebody who makes videos. He graduated from my college, where he makes videos for Myles Garrett, the Browns defensive end, and he literally told me,
Nice.
He goes like, get on TikTok. He's like, it doesn't hurt. He's like, because all it takes is that one video, and all of a sudden it gets a little bit of traction and it blows up. And he told me that's like going to be your best friend. Like, get good at content creation for TikTok.
Yeah, people are scared to like get a TikTok and start doing brands mainly. They're scared to get a TikTok because they don't want to do it wrong, or they don't want to like mess up. And it's better than what you're doing right now because you're doing nothing right now. Like, get on there, fail. I mean, everything's about failing for a little while. And we still post stuff that we think is going to hit, and it doesn't. And then something blows up and it's like, why did this blow up? No one knows on TikTok. The algorithm's crazy. And that's what's so cool about it and so exciting. And like, you may think that you're a little bit behind, but it's still so new. Like we're running ads on it. We just started running ads on it recently, just like we do on Facebook and Instagram. And they are absolutely crushing. It's insane. And early on, whenever we did like 6 months ago, they didn't crush. They didn't do well. So I think that TikTok is coming around a little bit, and they have to make money, and ads are how they do it. And so it's crazy how it's working. So that's the one that we're really excited about. And I think that it's one of those things. And in a year, you're still going to be early. Like TikTok is here to stay. It really is. Like whether you like it or not, it's here to stay. It may look different in 5 years than it does now, but it's here to stay.
Yes, I agree. But it wouldn't be a normal Roughnecks episode without the best segment of the podcast. It's time for Motivation Monday. Motivation Monday is where I allow our guests to give our Roughnecks listeners a little motivational bump to get their week started as they listen on Monday morning. So what do you have for Motivation Monday, Hayden?
I've been rereading Deep Work by Cal Newport. And if you've never read that book, it's really great. He talks about, so much of us are like living this distracted life, and everything from like work to watching a movie at the end of the day and being on your phone the entire time to not spending time with your kids and being on your phone while you're doing it or not being fully invested. So if anyone has not read that book, like I would definitely put that on the top of your list. And I've been really focusing on deep work, and deep work is like putting your phone away, focusing on the moment and blocking off time to let your mind like wander. So to let your mind to fill that kind of time, whether you're on TikTok or Instagram or whether you're doing, something outside, shooting hoops, I don't know, whatever it is for you. But I've been like allowing myself to do that here recently and blocking off time for that. And then also blocking off time to do very deep focused work. And man, I'm telling you, like in a matter of a week, my life has just been changed like with a switch. And I read this book a while back, but it's a really great reread for me. And it's a great read if anyone has gotten around to that. So I would just say to be cognizant of the moment that you're in. And we all feel like that we can multitask, but there's been tons of studies done that we actually can't multitask at all, even the most talented humans. So that's what I'm focusing on this week. And I would challenge listeners to do the same and focus on the task at hand whenever that task at hand is there. And
with that, that's a wrap on episode 33 of the Roughnecks podcast. Man, thank you so much, Hayden, for coming on the show. I truly appreciate it. It was an awesome experience to have you on. But
yeah, man, that was fun. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, not a problem, man. Trust me. My friends thought I was like a little fangirl when you DM'd me back and said you were going to come on. I was like, holy shit. And they're like, oh, his dream just came true. He's in trouble now. But be sure to go check out Yee Apparel and the Yee podcast. You have to follow the social media. There's some quality content. Definitely get a good laugh, unless you're a city boy. But be sure to follow Hayden on socials. Where can they follow you on Instagram or Twitter or whatnot?
You can go to @Hayden_Adcock, ADCOCK on Instagram. And then Twitter is Haydensity. So it's Hayden City with an S, not city like city boys.
But thank you for tuning in this week. Be sure to come back next week for another big time guest who is a member of the Team USA and a captain of the wheelchair rugby team. But for now, you know the deal. Life is hard and will knock you down just like a bull does. Grab the bull by the horns, take control of your life. Until next week, Roughnecks out. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Roughnecks podcast. If you like this episode, be sure to rate and review and then subscribe so that you don't miss any of our future episodes. If you'd like to contact me, you can message me on social media at Roughnecks Podcast on Instagram and Twitter at RoughnecksPodC1, or you can shoot me an email at roughneckspodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to grab the bull by the horns, but until next week, Roughnecks out.
Oh, thank you.